The dangerous mistake most people never notice. What if one of the fastest ways to destroy your biggest goal is telling someone about it? It sounds completely backward. After all, most people believe sharing your plans creates accountability, support, and motivation. But psychology tells a very different story. In many cases, the moment you announce your next move, your brain begins changing the way it responds to that goal. A few compliments, a few encouraging words, a few moments of feeling understood, and without realizing it, you may start experiencing part of the emotional reward before you've earned any real results. The excitement feels real. The confidence feels genuine. Yet your motivation quietly begins to fade because your mind has already tasted the satisfaction that should have come only after success. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden psychology behind keeping your next move private, why science warns against announcing goals too early, and why the people who achieve the most often let their results speak long before they do. The invisible reward that kills motivation. Imagine two people setting the exact same goal. Both want to write a book, start a business, or transform their health. The first person tells everyone. Friends congratulate them. Family members say they're proud. Social media fills with encouragement before a single page is written or a single workout is finished. The second person says almost nothing. They quietly begin working while nobody is paying attention. A few months later, something surprising often happens. The first person's excitement slowly disappears, while the second person's progress quietly accelerates. At first glance, it looks like one person had more discipline, but psychology suggests something much deeper. The difference isn't always motivation. It's where the reward comes from. One person begins collecting emotional rewards from talking about the goal. The other collects rewards only from doing the work. And that small difference can quietly determine who keeps going, long after the excitement of the first announcement has disappeared. Why your brain thinks you've already succeeded. Psychologists have spent decades studying why announcing goals can reduce the likelihood of achieving them. One of the most influential researchers, Peter Gallwitzer, discovered that publicly declaring an important goal can create a misleading sense of completion inside the mind. When other people recognize your intention, your brain doesn't always distinguish between being praised for the plan and being rewarded for the outcome. In both cases, you receive a small emotional payoff. That feeling is pleasant, but it comes with an unexpected cost. Part of the psychological drive that should push you toward action has already been satisfied. Instead of feeling hungry to prove yourself, you begin feeling as though you've already taken meaningful steps forward. Nothing has changed in the real world. The work still remains. But inside your mind, the urgency has quietly weakened. And once that invisible shift begins, staying consistent becomes far more difficult than most people ever realize. The psychology of silent progress. If talking about your goals can weaken motivation, what should you do instead? The answer isn't to stop dreaming bigger. It's to become more selective about who hears your dreams before they've become reality. Silent progress protects something incredibly valuable: momentum. Every workout you finish without announcing it. Every chapter you write without seeking approval. Every difficult decision you make without asking for applause. These quiet actions send a different message to your brain. They teach it that satisfaction comes from effort, not attention. Over time, your identity begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who talks about success. You begin seeing yourself as someone who quietly creates it. Ironically, the less you need other people to validate your progress, the more consistent your progress becomes. Because real confidence isn't built through compliments. It's built through private promises that you keep, even when nobody else knows they were ever made. When attention becomes a distraction, there is another hidden cost of announcing your next move too early, and it has nothing to do with motivation alone. The moment other people know what you're trying to achieve, you begin carrying something new, their expectations. Suddenly, your goal is no longer just yours. You start wondering what they'll think if you fail. You feel pressure to show progress, even when real progress is slow. Sometimes you even change your priorities, not because they're better, but because they're more impressive to the people watching. Without realizing it, your focus shifts from building the future you truly want to protecting the image you've already created. That is an exhausting way to grow. People who quietly transform their lives understand that meaningful progress is often messy, uncertain, and invisible at first. It doesn't need an audience. It needs time. By protecting your plans from unnecessary attention, you also protect your freedom to learn, make mistakes, change direction, and improve without feeling that every step must be explained or defended. The validation trap. Human beings naturally want to feel accepted. We enjoy encouragement, recognition, and the feeling that other people believe in us. There is nothing wrong with that. The problem begins when validation becomes a substitute for progress. Every compliment about a future success feels good, but it can quietly tempt you to chase approval instead of action. You begin measuring your growth by how impressed other people seem, rather than by the habits you're building every day. And approval is a dangerous source of motivation because it depends on something you cannot control. Some people will support you, others will doubt you. Many simply won't care. If your commitment rises and falls with their reactions, your progress will always be unstable. The strongest form of motivation grows from somewhere much deeper. It comes from knowing that today's work matters, even if nobody notices it. Because the people who accomplish extraordinary things are rarely driven by applause. They're driven by the quiet satisfaction of becoming the kind of person who always finishes what they start. Why the quietest people often go the furthest. One pattern appears again and again among people who create lasting success. They disappear for a while, not because they've given up, not because they're hiding from the world, but because they understand that growth often happens best without constant observation. While everyone else is announcing new goals, posting every milestone, and searching for immediate recognition, they stay focused on the work itself. They allow themselves to improve in private, where mistakes don't need to be explained and slow progress doesn't need to be defended. This period of silence can feel uncomfortable because the outside world often mistakes it for inactivity. But silence is not the absence of progress. It is the protection of progress. By removing the pressure to constantly prove themselves, they preserve their energy for what truly matters. Then one day, the results appear to everyone else almost overnight. Yet what looks like sudden success is usually the outcome of hundreds of quiet days when nobody was watching, nobody was applauding, and nobody even knew what they were building. Building confidence without an audience. One of the greatest benefits of keeping your next move private is that it teaches you to build confidence from within instead of borrowing it from other people. When nobody is watching, every decision becomes a conversation between you and your own standards. You wake up early because you said you would. You finish the difficult task because you made a promise to yourself. You keep going, even when there is no applause waiting at the finish line. That kind of confidence cannot be given by compliments, and it cannot be taken away by criticism. It grows quietly through repeated action until your identity becomes stronger than your emotions. Eventually, you stop asking, "Do people believe I can do this?" and begin asking a much more powerful question. Am I keeping my word to myself? That is the moment everything changes. Because people who trust themselves no longer need constant reassurance from others. Their confidence comes from evidence they have created, one private promise at a time. When your identity becomes stronger than your goals. At first, you work because you want to achieve a goal. You want to lose the weight, build the business, write the book, or change your life. But over time, something much more important begins to happen. The goal slowly becomes secondary. What truly changes is your identity. You are no longer someone trying to become disciplined. You become someone who naturally does disciplined things. You are no longer chasing motivation because your daily actions no longer depend on how you feel. They depend on who you have decided to become. And once that shift takes place, outside approval loses much of its influence. You don't need to announce your next move because your confidence no longer comes from people's reactions. It comes from the quiet evidence you build every single day. That is why the strongest transformations often happen in silence. They are no longer driven by the desire to impress the world. They are driven by the commitment to become someone you can genuinely respect. Final reflection. If there is one thing to remember after watching this video, it is this: the people who achieve the most are not always the ones who talk the most. Very often, they are the ones who quietly protect their momentum until their actions become impossible to ignore. Your next move does not need approval before it deserves effort. It needs consistency. It needs patience. And most importantly, it needs your attention more than anyone else's opinion. So the next time you feel tempted to announce a new goal, pause for a moment and ask yourself one simple question. Am I sharing this to strengthen my commitment or to enjoy the feeling of success before I've earned it? That single question may completely change the way you pursue every dream from this point forward. Let your habits speak before your words. Let your results introduce you before your plans do. Because people may applaud your intentions for a day, but they will remember your results for a lifetime. If this video gave you a new perspective, comment the number 1 below. Let's see how many people are ready to let their actions speak louder than their ambitions.